This is the Final Word Daily, the West Indies Australia Daily, Day 1 from Grenada. Jeff Lemon, Bharat Sundaresan, the show brought to you by Maurice Blackburn, the number one plaintiff law firm in Australia. We are the number one cricket podcast in Grenada today. I'm just saying that. I'm deciding it. The charts have been decided.
They have.
Because you, Bharat, are going to explain to us an entire day's Test cricket in the space of 30 seconds.
Well, it did feel like it happened in 30 seconds. Australia win the toss, and for a second you thought that they're going to get an opening partnership and they're going to bat deep. They get to 47, they lose Khawaja. The Konstas show ends at the other end, and then they lose 3 for 3 when Steve Smith gets out. Australia in all sorts. Travis Head does what he just does. Cam Green gets out just before the lunch break. 5 for 110 when Travis Head gets out. And those two guys, Alex Carey and Bo Webster, just like last week, steady the ship, take Australia to safety. Then they get out in the 60s. Australia end up with 287. West Indies are about to start their innings, and the rains had come by then. The light is too dark, and there are no lights here in Grenada, so play's called off.
That's it. 37 seconds, I'm going to say. That's my vibe. Someone can confirm that in the comments. That's pretty good. If it has a 3 in front of it, it still broadly counts as 30 seconds. You know, like
it is in the 30s.
If you average 41.8, you still average 41.
Correct.
Because you didn't average 42. That's the way it works. Yeah, one of those days. It was. I thought. I had this feeling, and this goes to show that none of us know anything about cricket, and vibes are nowhere. But watching the first few overs this morning, so Australia win and choose to bat. West Indies say they would have bowled had they won anyway. They brought in another seamer. They've got Anderson Phillip instead of the spinner, so they've got 5 quicks in their team, and the ball's not doing anything. There's no bounce, or everything they try that's short comes through at like hip height, waist height. There's not much pace out of the surface, and I thought Usman Khawaja, I thought Sri Lanka, I thought batting a day and a half on a pitch that's not doing anything. And it just felt like that was going to be how it would play out. And then it all changed in the blink of an eye. So they get to 47, and it's pull shots. Khawaja's smacking a couple of pull shots. Konstas, one of the first balls he faces, 7th ball of the match, cracks it away for 4. There's a couple of good drives in there. They get to 47, and then 3 for 3. And how things changed during that period and after that period. It's just such a strange little spell.
It was. And I actually got up to the pitch last evening, pretty late in the day, when it was just the curators, and got an up-close look at it. And I'd seen it the day prior to that as well. There was a bit of greenery left on it. But by last evening, most of it was gone. And it did look like a placid track. If anything, I thought it would not be one where you can just score runs freely like what we saw in Leeds last week. But it'll be a slow grind, a slow burn kind of test match. And
a Khawaja test match.
Khawaja kind of test match, absolutely right. And for the first 45 minutes, when they got to around 47, maybe it was 35 minutes, I'm not sure, but even where they were defending the ball, it was well in front of them. Shamar Joseph, who bowled like fire last week, he wasn't getting the ball through. I think a couple of balls maybe carried at waist height to Sheho, but otherwise it was just it felt like, where are the spinners? Because if this was Sri Lanka, by then Jayasuriya would have bowled 17 overs already.
And probably taken 3 for.
And taken 3 for as well. But Khawaja would have still been in there.
Yes.
And
there were a couple that bounced. There was the odd one that came through and would get up to shoulder height once in a while, but it was occasional. It
was. And Alzarri Joseph, and the fact that he was the one who triggered the collapse as well. It was a poor start to his spell. He bowls 2 looseness, 2 short balls that Khawaja just pulls. And this is Khawaja when he was batting at his peak, and the way he plays the pull with disdain. And he dismissed both those deliveries for 4. And Alzarri Joseph also bowled 1 down the leg side. So you're like, he's not up with the speed, the radar's gone. So maybe this is going to, once again, another sign that it was going to be a slow grind. And his next over gets this ball to swing very late. And the ball was still swinging.
This was the one thing, and I thought when Anderson Phillip came on as well, he bowls a little slower, but he really swung it. And you saw him swing it in both directions. They're using a Duke's ball out here. So it's very hot, it's humid, there's no cloud around at this point, but there was that swing, there was something there.
There was, and we saw it last week as well, and ever since I've been introduced to the Red Duke's ball, it swings a lot. The Australians were introduced to it at the Windward Club on the southern coast of Barbados in their first training session, and that was a big takeaway for them. They were like, whoa, the ball does do quite a bit. And it did a lot in the air last week. It was doing that today, and Jaden Seals was getting it to swing it, but it was nothing of the pitch. Last week, the ball was rushing through and getting batters into awkward positions. That wasn't happening till Alzarri Joseph produced that sharp in swinger once again from around the wicket. So Usman Khawaja actually spoke to Cricinfo's wonderful journalist, Andrew McGlashan. Go read his Craig Brathwaite interview.
He's a role model.
He is. He is a role model to have Nasher. He told Nasher and me about how, because Nasher asked him, so why is it become so difficult to face right-armers bowling around the wicket? And Usman Khawaja said, well, it's because of DRS, because umpires have started giving you out a lot more in the last few years. And ever since he said that, in 2 out of 3 innings, he's been out LBW while facing bowlers from around the wicket. And I think it's just, in my opinion, has a lot to do with the fact that because he was being nicked off so much during the home summer, he's coming so far across to cover that off stump that if the ball does swing in late, like it did today, and it did in Kensington Oval, he gets himself in a position where if he misses the ball, he's right in front of the stumps. He reviews it, umpires call on bounce, he's not very happy with it, but it looked
I mean, the fact of players getting annoyed about that just annoys me every time. That's smashing your leg bail off. You know, if that, even with the margin for error, it's like it could possibly maybe be just creeping over the top, in which case you would be very lucky if the ball actually reached the bails for it not to. You wouldn't be thinking, oh, I'm unlucky. So, I don't really see why there's cause for complaint. But it's
just what batters do.
It is what batters do. Has he got a problem with pace? I think he has a problem with pace these days. I think he just looks less and less convincing over the last 18 months to 2 years, particularly when he's facing like quality fast bowling, which obviously is difficult, but it's also your job.
I asked him point blank in that very interview. I said, do you have a problem with seam bowling? This is after the World Test Championship final. So we interviewed him in Barbados. I said, because everybody else seems to think so, or most people think so. And he said, no, I don't. And obviously he said
sure.
he doesn't.
But you can't be fronting up to play a test match and say, I have a problem with pace.
So I didn't expect him to say that. So it was tongue-in-cheek as well from me. But I think that the worrying thing for him would be the fact that not that he's getting out. Obviously, openers get out, and it's not been easy to bat. It wasn't easy to bat at Lord's. It's not been easy at Kensington Oval or here with the new ball. But I think it's. But
it's not supposed to be easy.
It's not.
You're
supposed
a test
to
match
be.
opener.
Correct.
You can't talk about it. The fact that it's hard. Of course, it's hard.
Yeah, of course, it's hard, and especially it has been harder in the last 3-4 years. But I think it's the fact that the familiarity of those dismissals, or the similarity of them as well. Like I said, he was being nicked off by Bumrah and Siraj. He did get out of the pull shot a couple of times, but that was his mode of dismissal. Both times at Lord's, he kind of got into a position where, because he's sort of on the hop these days, he got nicked off just outside off stump. And the last 2 innings, it's been LBW, where it's not the outside edge, but it's the inside edge that has been beaten. And like I said, because of his position, he's just there in front of his stump. So that, and you talk of the best players in the world. Rahul Dravid, I remember, his last series was in Australia. The wall had been breached. He was getting clean bowled so often by Ben Hill and Oz. There had never been that gap between bat and pad for him. Virat Kohli, just in this home summer, the fact that he's just
couldn't stop playing the ball out in the channel.
And when you see that happen with older players or aging players who had their peak and who are not at their peak anymore, that is generally a cause for concern, not just for themselves, but for the team management.
Right. So Konstas plays a decent little innings, makes 25, looked okay for a while, but I think it's not that he plays a big expansive drive against a ball that has been swinging, and it does swing away and find the edge. It's the fact he does it right after Khawaja's got out, which is maybe the thing where you could talk about decision making at that point. Is this the time to crack after the next drive? So he nicks that one. Steve Smith comes out, and it's a funny sort of shot. Like, I was just really surprised to see him take on the hook so early in an innings. It was his 6th ball, and you see Smith play the hook sort of after he makes 100, after he passes 80 or something. Has tended to be the way that he's gone about things. He's not primarily someone who likes to hook the ball, but he tries to go up and under. It's only about waist height, and he just lifts it to fine leg, and he's caught. So 3 for 3.
But just on Steve Smith, yesterday he was batting in the nets on that side, and he was just pumping balls into the Kirani James National Athletic Stadium. Kirani James won the gold medal 400 meters, London, and then I think won silver in Tokyo. He's the biggest superstar this island has produced in sport anyway. Right. I mean, alongside Junior Murray, of course. Sure. And he, I'm not kidding, he hit 3 balls into the Athletic Stadium, and he kept hitting that shot anytime George Bailey or Michael Divinotto went shot with the sidearm.
Right.
So it almost felt like, and he just a couple of scoring shots he did play, it looked like it was the innings from yesterday. And George Bailey, just after the net session, it was quite the net session from Steve. He walked up to me, and I think it was Daniel Cherney, and he said, that was exquisite. And it was. And I think he just kind of continued that net session there. And he goes for that early pull shot. It didn't get up. And then he gets... but just the amount of time that ball hung in the air, it felt like the whole crowd and Anderson Phillips just
was right in front of us here. And we know how many catches they've been putting down. And Anderson Phillips circling. He's got his feet almost on the sponge. And the relief when he held it was palpable. And then another drop catch. They drop Cameron Green at cover. So he makes 25. It's the last over before lunch. Has a big drive at one. It's put down. It was Campbell, wasn't it? At cover who drops it. And then 5 balls later, last ball of the session, another big drive, edges it into the gully, taken. So Jayden Seales was cost a wicket and then got the wicket. It didn't cost them anything. They were absolutely elated. But it's a bad look for Cameron Green.
It is.
Getting out last ball before lunch when you are the number 3. You've got that job. You've got the responsibility. It doesn't mean you can never play a shot. But again,
timing.
Like with Konstas, the decision making about when to play your shots.
And with Konstas, you mentioned the timing after Usman Khawaja's dismissal, but he'd just gotten away with playing a similar drive, but it was even wider and fuller. 2 overs prior to that one, and it just went past Gully, Roston Chase. He did flash at a few deliveries. I think he's still finding his game. I think there's a progress report out on Sam Konstas that we need to take it innings by innings because the selectors have made a decision on the bigger picture. We don't have to worry about the bigger picture. We judge him innings by innings. I thought the better signs, apart from boundaries, were the fact that he was able to rotate the strike. And because last week he was a sitting duck for Shamar Joseph. 3 times he just pushed into the covers and did a bit of a Bobsons and Bill Lawry and just ran across for a single, which was, I thought, impressive. So one tick for Sam Konstas for that innings. Cam Green, very similar to last week. He looked good in the second innings. I thought his footwork was really good. He made 15, 16 runs. And then that one over where Justin Greaves had him trapped LBW, it looked like it was out. It wasn't given not out. Same over, he gets out playing a loose shot. It was very similar today. It feels like the jitters just come back.
Totally. I mean, you can't be wasting lives like that in Test cricket. So many players' careers are defined by innings where they get away with. They get a chance early in the innings, and that's what enables them to do what they can do. And he played really nicely at some points. I like the way he just uses the face of the bat. I mean, he loves playing into a slip cordon, no matter how packed it is. He's always running the ball into that cordon, but he's got good control about being able to sort of find a gap that's squarer or between slip and gully, and it's a rotating strike that way, which seems high risk, but he seems to have control over those shots, but less at it's the hard hands at the ball kind of shots. So anyway, we've talked a lot about the first half of the Australian innings.
But I'll just say one thing, though, and this is a biased statement. You spoke about the drop catches. Like when Manas Labuschagne was getting dropped a lot, they said he's the luckiest cricketer in the world. And
statistically, it was true.
The English, but he still averaged 60.
Yeah,
so what
he converted.
He converted.
Yeah.
And now both Konstas and Green have been dropped 3 or 4 times. They've got a life in almost every innings, but they haven't made the most of it. So you can be the luckiest cricketer if you make something.
You've still got to make. It doesn't help you if you get out the next ball. That is true. So Travis Head, who we didn't mention, who made 29 and helps put on 60. He's always coming in early. I was including some of these stats in the piece I wrote today. Out of the last 22 innings he's played where he's batted at 5 or lower, he's come in at 3 for 60 or lower. So 10 out of 22 of his. So basically every second innings he's coming in at less than 3 for 60. And a lot of the time he makes a decent score. He hasn't been making huge scores lately, but he made those 250s in Bridgetown that were potentially match winning or allowed Australia the opportunity to win the match. Doesn't make such a big score today, but gets them past the lunch break, and then he gets out horrible ball to rears up and away on the shoulder, and the wicketkeeper takes it low, and lo and behold, the Angels sing. Third umpire gives a decision in the favour of West Indies. That was a close one. It landed, I think it was exactly like the Show Hope one. It landed on the end of the fingers and then up into the hand, like the one from Bridgetown.
Different third umpire, though.
Different third umpire.
Nitin Menon and Adrian Holdstock was in the middle.
That's right. Yes, so Holdstock is officiating with Big Dick Kettleborough. And so Travis Head gets out, and then it's the Bo Webster and Alex Carey show, because it just seems to be, how is Bo Webster the most reliable bat in the Australian team? And I know you've been talking about playing all of his test matches in different countries, which I was thinking about in Barbados, because every test in this series is a different country. Yeah. It happens to be against the same team, but he will have played six countries in 7 tests.
7 tests in 6 countries after he's done with Jamaica.
Yeah,
and he's one of the first names that's going into that playing list. He's just the maturity, and they talk about it a lot. Experience. What is experience? I think he is defining experience for you.
Yep.
I mean, when you talk about him having played over 100 first-class games or nearly 100 first-class games.
He's played more than for sure.
He had, right? And it's not just, okay, most of them were in Australia, but every game is different. When you speak to anyone, especially the first-class dadas, as they call them in India, the dadas meaning the masters of first-class cricket, every day is a different day. They're battling against different conditions, different kinds of bowlers, and this is what you get. He's so unruffled, right? He's not ruffled by anything, even when he gets beaten.
Doesn't panic.
Because he's seen it all. Like he's seen most of what, I mean, Test cricket obviously higher level.
He's batted in a lot of teams that have been 5 for fuck all.
And
he's okay with that. He's happy to do that. So he played, I thought his innings was interesting because he got tied down. The bowling was good. It was disciplined. It was hard to score. And he was getting a bit annoyed, a bit frustrated at times. But he was able to just hang in there and not do anything stupid when he was getting frustrated. Meanwhile, Alex Carey is just breezing along. Left-hander, he was carving behind point a lot. A couple of the smacks down the ground that he was playing, he was walking at the quicks and playing them through covers, but not looking like Sam Konstas does when he's walking at the quicks, because Carey could actually hit the ball. So he makes 63, was it?
Yeah.
And does that in relatively quick time, and Webster makes 60 in relatively slow time. But it worked. It worked as a partnership until Carey gets a ball that just sticks in the pitch, and he tries to play the pull shot, and he just chips it to mid-wicket very softly. And, you know, I mean, people always talk about, oh, that's a soft dismissal. It's still you're just mistiming the ball. If you mistime the ball, you might edge it to slip, and they say it's a great catch and you're unlucky. But if you hit it to mid-wicket or cover, you're soft, which is one of those cricket nonsenses. But look, he gets out at that point. The tail make a few, Cummins whacks a few, and they sort of chip away at them to the point where Webster takes on a risky second run and gets run out, coming back, trying to get back on strike. So everyone makes a few. Cummins made 17. I think Hazelwood made 10. Lyon made double figures.
No, I don't think he got that.
Well, no. Oh, he gloves one down the leg side to end the innings. But shared around 4 wickets for Jaden Seals and Alzari Joseph. And 1 and 2 for all the others with the run out. So all the quicks got at least a wicket, and it was a group effort, 286. And if this were a better batting team, this West Indies side, you'd say they're on top. You know, Australia should be at a position of disadvantage, but with the bowling they've got, they're probably not at a position of disadvantage.
They're not, and I think we will. That cliche will play out tomorrow, where the second team bats on that surface. I don't think it's as straightforward a pitch as I thought it would be. Just even speaking to Ian Bishop and co, it just feels like a two-paced pitch, and we've seen a lot of that. And that Alex Carey dismissal is a great example, because he hit a 6 just in the previous over of Justin Graves. He got into a similar position.
The grave digger.
And it did come. That one didn't come at the middle of the bat either, but because by then he had swiveled and the ball came at a certain pace, he could kind of get enough bat to hit it over deep backward square leg for 6.
How was that little like short arm pull he played at the start of his innings?
Like
he just leant back and then a little wrist flick across the line,
brilliant.
and it pinged.
And
Flew away.
Second or third ball he faced. That was so good.
Some shots.
And even some of the shots down the ground as well. Silky smooth. So I think the pitch it's not going to be straightforward. No. And you have Hazelwood, Stark and Cummins. The bowling the way they are, especially Mitchell Stark.
And you have Hazelwood especially. I just think after Bridgetown, it's Hazelwood again. He'll just hit that spot, and the bounce will do unpredictable things, and it's going to be real ugly. If you're Kesey Carty, if you're Brandon King trying to play some nice drives on that surface, good luck.
Good luck, and good luck against Mitchell Stark as well. With that, he's been bowling brilliantly for a while. Bowled brilliantly at Lord's, so and he hasn't got the big wickets, so maybe it could be a Stark day. Hazelwood, you can just ride him in, right? He's almost the easiest to bet on in these conditions, but it's not going to be easy. And West Indies have, maybe Craig Brathwaite in his 100th test is the one who puts his hand up. He hasn't been in the best run scoring form for a while now, or someone else puts their hand up. Maybe it's time for the Carty party. Who knows? So we'll see. I'm not too confident.
Hall of Fame in a moment. A word for Maurice Blackburn, #1 plaintiff law firm in Australia. If you need a hand, if you're the kind of person who needs some legal assistance and you don't know how to do it, and it's confusing and it's intimidating and it's expensive, and you're going to be sent broke because you're up against some company or business or person with a lot of cash and you don't have it, you talk to them if they think you've got a good case. A lot of cases they do no win, no fee, so they're confident to take those cases on, and they're the people who've got the expertise looking after working people. That's the entire idea of the firm since 1919. Find them offices across Australia. Hall of Fame in a second. It is the final word. It's the Daily. It's the West Indies Australia Daily. It's Jeff Lemon and Bharat Sundaresan in Grenada. What a beautiful place it is. You can't see out the back anymore on the video because it's dark. That's what happens at the end of the day. But there's this rambling hill going up there with these amazing little houses
I'm worried about the houses. Are they lit?
Yeah, there's a few lights in the houses. And apparently Junior Murray grew up in one of these houses, we're told.
We've been told a few times today.
So, that's something that Andrew Mason likes to keep saying every time he gets a chance. Hall of Fame, I don't know, what stood out for you?
Three things. Firstly, the little blonde kid who I think some might blame for Steve Smith getting out. Mm-hmm. He was sat right there above the side screen where it says Grenada, if you can still see it.
In the blue spot or below that?
Below the blue spot there.
In the orange seats.
Further, orange seats.
Yeah, above. Okay.
Right above the side screen. So he was with the family
here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to point to it on the camera.
Yeah. I think. Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah, it's family of 5.
Sure.
And he was the smallest kid, so he was running up and down. And I was on radio and I said, come on, that's bad parenting. Come on, Dad, grab a hold of your child. Because Steve Smith was distracted. And this is just before the delivery where he got out. So obviously it was the blonde kid's fault.
Okay.
I'm blaming him for it.
So he can grow up and say, I got Steve Smith out.
He can. And then the dad just hung on to him. I don't know whether dad was consoling him or not, but you could see the dad did not let go of him. But the damage was done already.
Damage is done.
So that was number one.
Ruined the opportunity for the greatest Australian cricketer of this generation to make a defining 100.
Correct. For the first test match here.
Or maybe he shouldn't have just hit the ball down fine leg's throat.
Fair enough.
I don't know.
I'm going to blame the blonde kid. Steve, it's up to you whether you want to head or not.
Blonde kids are to blame for a lot of things.
Well, I can't say that. But the other thing was to our left is the Australian dressing room on the first level. But they have a balcony on the second level. So throughout the first session, George Bailey was there in the corner, just observing play. And as soon as Sam Konstas got out, he was in the corner. It was George in the corner. And then as soon as Sam Konstas got out, Andrew McDonald was right up there next to George Bailey. They had a 15-minute chat. But what happened, my Hall of Fame nomination, though, is right after that, one by one, when the batters started getting out, whoever would get out would end up on the second floor on the balcony. Right. And they were sitting in batting order as well. It was Konstas, Khawaja, and also because they didn't fall in that order, Smith was already in there. And Cam Green fell after Steve Smith, so he slotted himself in between Michael Divinito and Steve Smith. So it was 1, 2, 3, Michael Divinito, number 4, Steve Smith. And then Travis Head got out, and so I just mentioned this on radio, and within 5 minutes of Travis Head getting out, there he was dragging a chair up to go sit next at number 5. I've never seen anything like that. Maybe it was for better viewing. Maybe, whatever it was just funny.
I'm going to nominate just a little one for the show. Bharat, you did your first stint on Ball by Ball today, which was a lovely little moment because the opening is there due to illness and injury, and finally it was your chance to get out of the summariser chair and call the main thing. So that made everybody feel cheerful. I'm going to have a word for the absolutely oversized speaker stack over here. So it's an outdoor press box here. So we're sitting outside and it's just blasting, and the ratio of megawattage or decibels or whatever you measure speakers in to people in the ground, like per head of population, it is a very unnecessary amount of noise. Like, no one's partying to the. It's like at the point of distorting, and it's just blasting everybody. So that's quite the experience. And then just maybe a word for the sort of anti-Hall of Fame for the drunk Australian idiots who were just falling all over the place down here. Now, look, I like a night out. I've made no secret of that. Most people on this show have made no secret of enjoying a day out or a night out at time to time. But there's got to be a point where if you're 55 or 60, you've been pissed thousands of times. It can't be that exciting anymore. Like, then surely the novelty has to wear off at some point. The point before you're like, I'm just going to try to wander onto the ground and sit in the photographers' chairs on the boundary, and then argue with the cops who are very politely saying, okay, we're just going to need you to not do that because you're being a massive dickhead. And there was one guy towards the close who they were just sending home. They were like, and he was arguing with them and fighting, and there were a bunch of others all staggering onto the ground when they weren't supposed to be there and falling over the boundary lines and carrying on, and just get a grip. Get it? Like
Yeah.
if you are that far into your life, don't embarrass yourself. Have a little bit of self-respect. It's possible. That's all.
It was embarrassing, and and it is disappointing that you were not going to get away with doing that in Australia, right?
Yeah.
So just don't feel.
There's
that
very much a condescending
It
thing
is.
that we're here, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Here we can do what we want.
We can do whatever we want. Like,
Yeah.
Yesterday, I mentioned it to you over dinner last night. I just saw two random fans just rock up, like at 6:30 p.m. just because there's no real proper security. Just wander around the pitch and shooting videos and all of that. My biggest problem is they'll put it up on social media and others will think we can do that as well. And who knows then? But just don't make a mockery of a country which is so welcoming. They love having tourists here, but don't take this advantage of them in that sense. It's very disappointing.
There we are. This is our sermon to end the final word.
Look, both of
today.
look at us. We look like people who should be giving sermons.
We should be, or we should be the subject of them, perhaps. I don't know.
One of the two.
For our sins. Right, that's it. This has been the Final Word Daily. West Indies, Australia. Thanks to you for watching, listening. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/the final word. Come on in. The water is delightful in Grenada. And I know it may not seem like we're working hard, but we are still working hard this week as we try to do all of the things that we've got to do. That's it. That's the show. We will be back on day 2. Thanks to Maurice Blackburn as well. And we'll see you tomorrow.